Good evening, brave souls. Thank you for coming out tonight. It is going to be absolutely worth it because Erin made cookies. This is a Maine Voices Live first, where our guest has actually baked for us. And apparently I'm going to be distributing them at the end, but I already had one and they are fantastic. So you can look forward to that. I also wanted to let you know, too, that we'll be selling her cookbook at Longfellow Books will be here, One Longfellow, if you want to stay around for that. So, I am Lisa DeSisto. I'm the publisher of the Portland Press Herald, and thank you. Oh, thank you for that. We do so appreciate that. I want to thank our sponsors to begin with. Our in-kind sponsors, the Press Hotel, who puts our guests up, and also Hub Furniture, who styles our stage, so we appreciate that. Also, our presenting sponsor, H.M. Payson, Portland Downtown, and Stroudwater Lodge. So thank you to all of our sponsors. So this is going to be a good one because, not that I have favorites of the Press Herald, but Mary Poles is absolutely one of my favorites. And she's going to be interviewing Erin tonight. So let me tell you a little bit about both of them. Mary came to the Press Herald in late 2013 after a long career writing about movies, and she now writes primarily for our source section about sustainability. She was born in Portland, raised in Brunswick, but was away for 25 years, so is thrilled to be back and really experiencing her state again for the first time. She studied art history at Duke, has her master's in journalism from UC Berkeley, and she's happiest reporting a story in Maine's great outdoors, whether she's watching a seaweed farmer plant a crop or eating fresh-caught perch with an ice fisherman while a hungry eagle hovers nearby. She lives in Brunswick with her hockey-obsessed son, their dog, and apparently a cat who's been playing with a mouse for about 6 hours. So Mary turned to her network to get some advice on what to do, and she'll probably give you an update on that. Did not end well for the mouse, unfortunately. So she will be talking with Erin French, who grew up in Freedom, Maine, population 719, helping her dad at the griddle in his diner. An entirely self-taught cook who read cookbooks to form her culinary education, she now helms her acclaimed restaurant, The Lost Kitchen. How many people have been there? Oh, how many people want to go there? Yes! We have a lot of good prospects. Hopefully she'll give us some tips on how do you call? When do you call? That's going to be the first question. And anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, she's creating meals that draw locals and visitors from around the world to a dining room that feels like an extension of her home. And each spring, the day the phone lines open to accept reservations, the restaurant books up for the entire year. Inspired by her lush locale and classic American cooking, Erin makes food that has been called brilliant in its simplicity and honesty by Food and Wine, and the writer of that Food and Wine article is right there. And it's exactly this pure approach that makes her style of cooking so appealing. So you're in for a Maine Voices Live treat tonight. Please welcome to the stage Mary Poles and Erin French.
Because that way I can be close to the restaurant because I'm worried I'll never get a reservation. Hi. So glad that you're here, and I can't believe that you brought cookies.
Well, I figured I didn't bring anything to eat, but there might be riots.
So, do you always have to bring something? I mean, when you go somewhere, like when you went to the Today Show, did you bring cornmeal cookies?
No. We're in Maine, so.
Okay, all right.
And it was a nice afternoon. I went to the mail this morning and I made these cornmeal cookies, and the snow was coming down and my mom was wrapping cookbooks that we were shipping out. We were having this moment. I was like, okay, life's pretty good right now.
Yeah, that sounds really good, except for the part where you had to drive to Portland. And I feel like all of you who made it here tonight, thank you so much for coming. As I was driving here and going past a car literally on its roof on the side of the road and another one in a ditch just a mile further, I thought, maybe this event that we're having is going to be like getting a reservation. Like the people who so triumphant.
You just figured out the recipe of how to get a reservation at Lost Kitchen is perseverance.
Okay, so we need to get out of the way, and I feel like it's, whenever I go to book readings, there's always someone who raises their hand and says, where do you get your ideas? Which, what's the answer to that? From the locker room. Like, how do you answer that question? But I know everybody really wants to know. So they want to know a little bit about the mystery of the April 1st thing. So let's just get it out of the way. Why April 1st?
Well, it kind of started in this way of that it was just supposed to give me some time off, that people wouldn't be calling all winter long and bothering. I was like, I just need to hibernate and to rest up, so just call us in the spring. And so we've been doing this, I think it's been 7 years. Even my first restaurant, kind of in this way of just being casual with reservations. And so it's like, okay, just call in April. And that used to be okay. People started to call, middle of April, calls would trickle in. And, okay, call in April would be like, okay, we started calling on April 1st. And then one year it was like, people started calling at midnight. There were 26 phone calls from midnight when I went into 7:30 in the morning, made a cup of coffee, and said, oh, check the voicemails. 26 messages. I was like, wow, that's really impressive. That was the year before last.
And do those 26, do they get in?
Oh yeah, everyone who got interested. I used to be able to be like, okay, if you call on April 1st, no problem, you're in. I would have told people that this past year because I thought that would have been true too.
Yeah.
That's not what happened.
So what time of the day on April 1st? Because I like to sleep in a little bit, like at 6:40 or so.
I think it was taken pretty literally, and at midnight, just full on. People showed up. People started driving, and I saw lights coming into the parking lot. Like, oh my God, the phone's ringing. All three are ringing, and we're all running around. We're going, and then alarms started going off because the security system went down because there was no communication because all the lines were it was
Jammed.
Yeah, it was jammed up.
So, and is there a point where someone picks up, like it's your mother answering? Does she take some reservations, or is it?
Yeah, so if we were answering as fast as we could, and then they'd all roll over to voicemail, and then the voicemail would fill up because it was filling up faster than a human being could literally answer all of the calls and take them down as we were calling them back. So it was a blizzard.
So, so I think probably everywhere you go, you get someone giving you some advice on what would be a different way to handle this.
I hide. When I go to the supermarket, I wear a hat, I wear glasses, and no one can see who I am, because otherwise I could be like in the canned soup aisle and someone would be like, I'm really angry. I dialed 600 times, and I should tell you how to do it. I'm like, oh my God, I can't even buy groceries for my kids.
So, and is this in Freedom? There's no supermarket in
No.
Freedom, right?
I started to go to Waterville because people didn't recognize it quite as much. You go to Belfast, I was just like, I'm screwed.
So, I think that Maine has this allure for people from away, and I wonder as you created this amazing space, which everybody says is actually, once you get there and your eating is even better than you might expect, how much of it did you think, like, okay, this could be the kind of thing that might take off because, like, I know that Mark Bittman comes up to Maine every summer and is going to want to write about some hot new restaurant. Like, was that ever in your mind?
No.
Or
That's hilarious. No, I feel like this, I know that people think like maybe I came up with this grand idea and I said, I'm going to open this very fancy restaurant that no one's going to be able to get into, and it's going to be next to a waterfall, and you have to call at midnight. And just, the list could go on about all the ridiculous things that this place is now, and that's not anything I ever designed it to be. It was more of a survival mode of, coming home, moving back in with my parents and being like, okay, I'm in Freedom, I have no money, I have $32 to my name, what am I gonna do? Here's this vacant space in the town I grew up in, and all I could see, there were blinders on, all the people telling me, that's crazy, that's not gonna work. I'm like, well, this is the only way. This is the only way it's gonna work. I see this space, I can see the beauty of it. I can see what I can do, and I never thought that people would come here, that they would eat dinner, that they would want to drive that way. I thought it was going to be a casual place with coffee and free Wi-Fi, warm muffins and brunch, and that is not what it has become at all, because all of a sudden it started to take its own shape, and the market was telling me something else when people would show up for dinner, and I was having the problem of selling out of desserts because people were ordering appetizers, entrees, and desserts, which they never did at my first restaurant, which was in a small city. They'd come in and they'd share things, and they'd have cocktails and appetizers, and I could keep up with it, but this was a whole different thing, and I said, oh my, like people they're starving for something here, and they're wanting an experience, and they're coming all this way. So I started to listen to what people wanted, but at the same time keeping my feet into digging my heels into who I was and what I felt like I could offer them. So it was this fine line of not straying from who I was, but also listening to what this place was supposed to be. And there was some calling that I feel like was in me, but also that the community or the people who wanted to come there were telling me as well. So that's what it is now. It's a collective.
But it's the same food that you were making in Belfast? Or did you,
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel like you evolved also as a chef and just started hitting bigger home runs or grand slams or whatever? Why am I using sport analogies?
I think people can talk about the food all day long, of it being like, oh, you know, you're a chef and your job is to create the best dish that you possibly can, and that's your goal. But I feel like my goal was never to make the best food. My food, when I was cooking a dish, I wasn't trying to win. I was thinking about the face that was going to eat it, as opposed to the dish itself and the way that they were going to feel. So the room and the environment and the way that you felt in that space was just as important to me as it really was the food, and that was just, I feel like the food was just a piece of it. So I don't think the food was ever the driving force. It was more of like taking someone into your home and caring for them in this utmost way that you would for, if you had your best friend over for dinner, how would you make them feel and how would you care for them? It wasn't just a meal you cooked for them, it was the way that you embraced them, the way that you welcomed them in, the way that you cared for them for the evening, the music you picked out for them, the way we hand make our linens, that all of those little details that we think about, it's not, the food is just a detail of the evening. And so I think it was more of that than the food.
And you do these sort of welcomes when people sit down, right?
Mm-hmm.
You give an introduction and you really are inviting them into what is like your home.
Yeah, we have a little place because I feel like if you came to my house, that's what we would do. We would get together and we would sit at a table, and someone at some point would raise your glass and say, aren't we damn lucky?
So one of a new friend who was going to come tonight but has a terrible cold, so she couldn't, is this writer Catherine Miles, who was your neighbor in Belfast. And I was interviewing her for a story in Source, and I don't even understand how we came upon the topic of Erin French, but she said, oh yeah, I used to sous chef for her. And I was like, wait a minute, you're like a hardcore journalist. You've written about like plagues and storms and earthquakes taking over the world. And you were like cutting up carrots for Erin French? So I think though, and the other thing is she described to me that watching the kitchen, that it was like watching Tai Chi or something like that. Like it was completely elegant and easy and relaxed, and if I'm right, she's from reading the cookbook, she's really representative of your community, right? Of your community of cooks and servers and magical flower gatherers and things like that.
Yeah, it's true. It's not like, well, it's funny she called herself a sous chef because that's so fancy. We don't use those terms. We're all just, girls.
She was probably just trying to relate.
I know, she's like, oh, it's a sous chef. But it sort of came about this way that all of the women who worked for me were friends, because I think they were the few who actually believed I could actually pull this off. It's like, you couldn't put out an ad and say I'm hiring and be like, where? I'm gonna come work out there. I don't know, I have this feeling that I wasn't self-taught, so maybe it was intimidating to me to put out an advertisement to hire people that would be. And so the way that I advertise was word of mouth, of asking friends of their interest, and a lot of women who came to me who were totally intimidated in the kitchen. It's like, it's okay, like we can work this out together. We sort of, we figured out when we found our way in the kitchen and found out that we were actually more skilled than we thought we were. And when you started to put your heart into it, that produced a lot more skill than maybe someone teaching you and telling you. And I think there's something to be said for intuition, and using your own feelings about food than opposed to someone telling you it should taste this way, it should feel this way, it should look this way. That if you take your own personality into it, like I feel like those are the best dishes that I've ever created, are the ones that I had to find out through mistakes on my own, of this sort of self-discovery through food. And I think all of us in this together at the Lost Kitchen, we've sort of had this self-discovery of who we are, and we still kind of laugh that we've made it to this level, and we're all just kind of like really basic girls.
So, in any given evening, are there surprises that come out for you as you're preparing? You buy some beautiful fish and you're going to serve that, but maybe something goes a little wrong and you roll with it a different way than you expected. Does that still happen? Or are you more like, tonight let's do that swordfish thing?
No, I think every day, that's the fun of it being able to be a prefix menu of people trusting that they're going to come into your home and you're going to cook them the best possible dish that you can. And sometimes that involves really being on your toes, to the point where it's scary, because things can come in and they won't be up to standards, or something doesn't show up and you've planned and you think that you have an order of halibut coming in and it doesn't arrive because it didn't get off the boat in time to make it to the front door. It's like, okay, what do? I have 44 strangers coming for dinner and the main course just didn't show up. And so all of a sudden you go, thank God I live in Maine and we can run to the lobster pound. You have to think about ingredients and you have to move and be on your toes. And I think part of the success of this restaurant, and it's pushed me to be stronger, and it's pushed me to be a better cook and a better thinker. I mean, I can be more agile because I've had to.
And lobster's the fallback?
A lot of times. I know, it's like when you serve lobster at the Lost Kitchen, something went terribly wrong.
Wow, that's an excellent way of going wrong. So, will you tell us a little bit about, your dad had this diner, and how old were you when he first started cooking at this diner?
I was in kindergarten. I remember the first day of walking in there, like going into kindergarten, and my mom, she's like, okay, we're going to stop off at this place over here. I was like, what is this place? And she's like, well, it's this diner, and your dad just bought it, and we have a restaurant now, but there's warm donuts inside. Like, okay, so let's go in. And so we started that when I was about in kindergarten. And
what was it called then?
the Ridge Top.
The Ridge Top?
It was on top of the ridge.
Did he change the name, or did
It's still called that today.
So it still exists?
Yeah, they named it after like a Jesse Colin Young song or something like that. My parents are like Tony the Bees. It sounded like it was on the ridge. It's like.
So, and it was a whole family enterprise, right? And from the beginning, like your mom worked there too, or?
She really didn't want to.
Uh-huh.
She was a school teacher, so she was trying to be a good wife. She'd come home, driving home from school on a Friday night, and she'd be turning to go home, and she'd see the parking lot all jammed up at the restaurant. She's like, oh, damn it, I'm on the fry station tonight. Veer off. So that was the other side of her job.
And were you and your sister started sitting at the end of the counter, or?
My sister probably, but I got into working at the restaurant when I was about 12. And it was more of like, my dad would be like, here's $5 if you just clean up the counter for me, or just clean it up, just tidy things up for me, and basically just, take up the trash.
And pick shrimp. We talked about that the other day.
Yeah.
That he gave you some dirty jobs.
A lot of dirty jobs, picking shrimp, pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds and days of shrimp.
And you never complained? You were always happy there? It was a place of contentment?
I don't think I complained too much to him, especially when he sort of let me have my own way with it. When he realized that I could kind of handle myself on the grill, he was like, all right, see, I'll be out with my friends and I'll be back for cash out, take the money later on.
So how old were you then when you started handling the grill?
Like 14.
Wow. Wow. Have you seen that movie Waitress?
No.
I just had a vision of you in that kind of setting. And what was your first specialty there? Like 2 eggs over easy with a side of bacon, or?
Oh God.
Hash browns.
I mean, specialty was all just like, burgers and fried foods and things like that. And I think finally when he would take off, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna make a special tonight. And I would do like special desserts. I think I made rhubarb crisp, made some homemade ice cream and things like that. I tried to like pep it up a little bit. I was like, come on, it's a diner. Can we have a little, like, put some nasturtiums on things?
And were you making things that you wanted to eat?
I guess so. I don't think I had much of a choice because the menu was pretty as it was, but yeah, I mean, I always wanted a burger.
Yeah, but I mean, like, did you start to sort of get things out of, from television that you thought, okay, maybe we should add this to the menu, or did that happen?
No, I wasn't that pushy with him. I think I more worked in a few little specials when he wasn't looking, and I can remember, do you remember one soup that I made of like a squash soup? And I remember going down to, I've told this story before because it was a big moment for me, of like this moment of going down to the farm stand. There was a farm stand just down the hill from the restaurant. And my dad had gone for the afternoon, and it was in between the lunch and the dinner, and I had time to run down over the hill because I didn't have a license yet. And they had squash and they had leeks, and so I bought some. I took some out, and I figured out how to get money out of the cash register. It was like, you just had no, why didn't I figure that out sooner? And so I loaded up with the squash and the leeks, and I went back up the hill, and I roasted it, and I made this squash soup, and I was just like so proud of it. And I went and I had to put it up on a special board, which was this old like Coca-Cola board where you had all the individual letters. Stupidest
And
thing
you
ever.
slid in?
No, you popped them in. Like, it was on like this little cork board, and you had to dig all, and my father didn't have them organized. It was in a big bucket of letters that you like dumped out and had to separate them all out. And it's like, why weren't all the A's, B's, C's together? No. So I put it all up there, and it took me longer to put it up on the board than it did to make the soup. And I put out, the squash soup, roasted squash soup, and I had a cup for like $2.50 and a bowl for like $3.50. I put it up there, and I'm like, okay, here comes dinner. It's gonna roll in. People order this, and it's my special. I got a special on the board. I'm so excited, and the orders start coming in, and keep coming in, and no one orders this. So now I get to make it at Lost Kitchen all the time, so everyone gets to eat it.
So we were like, we just like some chili.
Yeah.
No squash soup.
Yeah. No, every time I tried to do something, like one of my things that I wrote about in the book was that I would sneak in orders in the produce order, because you always just order iceberg lettuce. And I was just starving to like, let's get some of that thing called mescaline. I was like, what is that? That's a new thing back then.
Yeah.
And I finally ordered a bag, and I got it in there, and then it would come back in the bowls, and no one would eat it. They just wanted that iceberg. So it's like, okay, I'm in the wrong place.
Do you ever put iceberg on the menu at Lost Kitchen? Do you ever make a wedge?
I just started to this year.
Yes.
I'm so excited about it. I have a newfound love for iceberg now. It took me a while, but we have these farmers who are growing these perfect little heads, and I was like, all right, I'm bringing back the wedge, and we're going to do it right.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. But so you went away to school, and you were going to go into medicine? And what happened? I don't know if everybody knows the story, but you came back to Maine.
I came back to Maine unexpectedly pregnant at 21, and kind of had no choice but to move home and drop out of school. And
Northeastern, right?
Northeastern, yeah. My parents were not really thrilled with the choices that I had made, and so I came back home, and I was single, and they were great. They took me in and said, fine, okay, this is the predicament we're in, and we'll get through it. And so I went back to work at my dad's diner. Pregnant.
See, you gotta see this movie, Waitress.
Yeah.
She's like wearing a polyester uniform and she's pregnant. And did you feel like you had derailed your life?
Yeah.
Like it was.
I fell hard into depression. It felt like, what did I just do? I just squandered everything. I had made it. I mean, we were all told as kids, kind of quietly, like, you had to get out of here to make something. You could not live here. You couldn't, it wasn't possible. And so I remember, and still, if anyone's recording this, don't let my dad hear this, because I got a full scholarship to UMO. And my mother took me aside and she said to me, and I got into Northeastern, but I got some scholarships, but it was still going to be a big commitment. She said, we can't show him this, because if he sees this, you're going to have to go here. And I think you need to go. I think you need to discover what it is you're supposed to do. And you grew up on a dirt road, and I think you should go to a city and figure out how do you want to live your life? And what do you want your life to look like? And so we still, to this day, he does not know. But I got full love to UMO.
Would he ask? Was he like flipping a burger saying, what about that letter from UMO?
I think we presented like, hey Dad, I got into Northeastern. He's like, how much? I was like, well, I got a little scholarship. He's like, great.
So when you were 24, you got married?
Probably 25.
Okay, so what was the transition between moving into that life and being with your parents? Like, what was that like?
It was very pressured, because I think I was in a position where I felt like I derailed my life, and I had to figure out how to get it back on track, and I had to do it quick. Because here I was, single mom, and I'm working at my dad's diner. And how am I going to get back on a path that seems successful? And for me it was, I need to find a partner, I need to find a job, I need to get a good home, and I need to get out of my parents' house. And so whatever that track was, and as fast as it could be, was going to give them the message that I was trying in some way.
Because they were worried you wouldn't try, or?
I think they were just worried that maybe I'd live with them forever. I don't know. I think they expected more out of me.
Yeah.
They expected me to reach for the stars, and when things in life didn't go the way that we all thought that my life would go, or I thought, or they thought, that how are we going to correct that?
So you moved to Belfast with Todd. That was that's his name,
yeah.
Todd, and his last name is French, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a couple years before you started thinking like, maybe I should throw some really awesome dinner parties in our apartment, or was it longer?
It was longer than that. I was still trying to figure out what I was supposed to do in this world, and I think for a while, feeling like food would have been the failure of me, because that would have been me falling back on the only thing that I knew. And it felt like that was not the right direction. I felt like I was trying to get away from that. So sort of continuing to find the struggle, like searching for who I was and what was I supposed to be. And I felt like I was just tumbling for years. And even though I was like trying to put on this brave face of that I was figuring my life out, I was making the right decisions, I got married, I was in a stable home, things looked really good. It looked good, and I think that's what the illusion that I wanted people to believe. I wanted to believe that. And that's what I wanted in my life. It's what we all wanted in our life. Our lives is to feel like we've done right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was never going to be. It was all an illusion. And I feel like as it kept going on, it kept catching up with me. What have I done? And I realized it was nothing. And that I was really unhappy with everything in my life. And so I said, well, I'm freaking out. I've got to do something. And I was just burning inside of like, there's something I'm supposed to be doing.
and I don't know what it is, and I'm like, I'm shaking, and I have to figure out, because I could feel it. There was just something bubbling, and I was supposed to be doing something with my hands. I knew it was creative, and I wasn't sure what it was, and I didn't really have the support to help nurture that or find it.
So you wanted to do something with your hands, does that mean that you were like around the house doing milk paint projects and
Oh yeah,
and
I was
throwing
sewing, I
pots
was painting, I was gardening, I was doing anything that I could just like get my hands on. I was open to anything. But I still, like, it was right in front of me the whole time, and I just wasn't ready to go to food. I mean, food continued to be in my life. I was catering, I was cooking at home, I was loving it, and how come I couldn't just figure out that that's what it was? And when I hit 30, I said, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's when I said, okay, I'm gonna make a job. I'm gonna quit my job. And I know that my parents.
What was your job at that point? Catering?
I was catering at that point.
Okay.
And I knew that my parents were no way going to send me to culinary school. That was not going to be on the table. I was 30 years old. I was going to have to figure it out, and there was no way that I was going to be able to leave my son and go off and have a self-education. So I was going to have to figure it out on my own. And that's when I came up with the idea to just open a supper club, because it was going to be a really low impact for me as far as financially and time-wise to try and figure out if this is what I was supposed to do in my life.
And you must have been reading about supper clubs in magazines or newspapers, right?
Yeah, I read some articles that really were interesting about, like, oh, like, what do you mean? Just like open your doors, like what I do for friends, and put out a donation jar, and the people could show up and you could cook for them and help pay for these ingredients. And that seemed really economical and like a really easy way for almost like a little startup restaurant in a way. If you wanted to like try it, but not have to have all of that capital to sort of put down and start a business.
Yeah.
I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have any idea what I was getting myself into.
So how long did it take before someone in Belfast, someone from the city government, showed up at your door with a clipboard?
No one ever, we locked the door.
Really? They were like little Missy?
No, they were like, they all wanted in.
So, but people started coming from outside of Belfast, right?
Yeah, it started, the first dinner was really quiet. I had to beg 16 friends to come, and they were like, why are we paying you to come for dinner? And, it slowly just sort of built after that. At the next dinner, all of a sudden, it was like, oh, there's some people I don't know here. And then the dinner after that, it was like, there's even more. And then one dinner, I'm like, I don't know a single face in here in my house. And that's when it, just started to be this word of mouth crazy thing.
And then one day your marriage broke up, the doors were locked when you went there, and you never got anything back. I worry about your grandmother's china that apparently, I don't know if Todd still has it. But then you started doing these basically like traveling food shows with the Scamp. Was it a Scamper or the little?
Airstream.
Airstream, okay. And, but at that point, hadn't the owner of the mill already come in to?
Yeah.
So we skipped the Lost Kitchen Belfast part, but they'd come in and said, we've got this great space that we really.
Oh yeah. Polly, who is a daughter-in-law of the gentleman who actually owns the mill, she was one of my farmers at my first restaurant. And the mill was located in the town I grew up in, and she came to me and she said, hey, my father-in-law's working on this project. We're looking for a tenant. Maybe you'd be interested in opening another restaurant, or maybe you'd know someone who might be interested anyway. Just thought I'd put it out there. And I looked at her and I'm like, you're crazy. There's no way I could open another restaurant. I'm over my head right now. I'm losing my mind. I'm running this restaurant. This is like, kind of a nightmare. This is so hard. And there's no way.
And you've got a 7-year-old at this point.
Yeah.
Or even.
Yeah, my marriage is crumbling. I'm trying to be a mother at the same time and trying to, work 90 hours a week running this restaurant. It's like, open another restaurant. Oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah. So the transition, obviously the mill, it sounds like it's the perfect space for you. And I wonder whether or not you still feel that way, like one restaurant is all I can handle, or whether or not there's some pressure on you due to your success to start sort of, sending out feelers, maybe open a place in Portland, and, are you really happy in just that one spot? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we have been bombarded by people who have said, come open restaurants in Vegas, come open restaurants in New York, we've got all the money, come to Boston, we'll do whatever, come on every show under the sun, and just like, let's exploit it, let's big it, let's make it this giant thing, and let's explode it. And I'm going, oh my God, no. It's the last thing I want. I really had this hard moment to look at it and realize that I could say yes to all of these opportunities and just explode this, and it would go crazy. But when I took a moment to think about how I wanted to live my life, that was not the way I wanted to live it. I wanted to live it right there in that little town that I grew up in. I want to live it in that little dirty farmhouse that I continue to work on really hard on my days off. And this is the life that I want to live, and be okay with less and not be greedy and looking for more. It's not why I ever got into this. I mean, the reason I am where I am is because I went back to my roots, and if I'm going to exploit my roots and blow them up, what am I doing this for?
Yeah, right. But you have, so you mentioned the farmhouse, which you have with Michael, who is your fiance.
Yes.
He's out there somewhere, I'm not sure where. He's in the back. And you met him on Match.com, and here's to Match.com. I feel like
It's for busy ladies who live in the middle of nowhere, okay?
like did your tagline say Freedom, Maine?
I lied. I didn't even say where I was from, and he asked me out for a drink, and he's like, when do you want to meet for a drink? I was like, well, he's from New York. I was like, I don't live in New York. I live in Maine. He said, Maine? Where is that?
So, when was the first time you cooked for him?
Oh.
How far into
Yeah,
your dating?
okay, I remember, there's 2 meals I can remember. One meal, the first meal I cooked for him in New York, I made the mussels, which are in this cookbook. He lived in an apartment on the Upper West Side, and I set off the fire alarm.
High temperature.
High temperature, high heat. I was used to a commercial kitchen. I was cooking in a little apartment.
And he hadn't seen the restaurant, so he was probably like, oh yeah, sure, you could have a restaurant.
Yeah, it was very impressive.
Did they taste it?
Yes. I think it was good. And then I made him a duck dish once. The first time he came to Maine, he drove up into a snowstorm, and I was like, and he's probably thinking, what the hell am I doing? And where am I going? And where is this? And so I made a tea brine duck, which is also in the cookbook.
Oh, excellent. Okay. The tea brine duck first.
So Match.com and Lost Kitchen Cookbook, you got those.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask you, there's a couple really topical questions that I wanted to ask you. One is about kitchens and sexual harassment, and has Mario Batali ever grabbed you? Like that. But the first question I have is, I feel like there are some misconceptions out there about you. And I bring that up because I feel like in the process of preparing for this interview, I got more phone calls from people like, hey, I hear you're interviewing Erin French. And there was like one lengthy description of a heavily pierced and tattooed woman with very loud children who was awful, and was Erin French. And I was like, I know she's got one kid, and I've met her, and they would be really well hidden, and she was kind of soft-spoken. And I can't help thinking that maybe that there's some people who maybe have some knives out for you because you are young and successful and not ugly. a little thin, considering that you have some of the most notoriously good food in Maine at your disposal anytime you want it. But like, so without, I don't want to put you too much on the spot, but do you feel like, I mean, Maine is so small, and people do talk about each other, and you know that, you grew up here. So is it hard for you at all feeling like, okay, I'm walking around my state and I'm a success, and I don't know whether somebody's calling Mary Poles to tell her about the tattoos and the piercings that I don't have?
You know, that's a good question, because I feel like I go back and forth between, I feel like we're such a strong, supportive state here. I also feel like this huge community of like, I feel proud. Like, it's like, go Maine. Like, if we're Mainers, we should be standing up. But there is also, there's this little bit, I think, in the food industry. It's very competitive, and I'm not sure why. Maybe because it's very male-dominated in some ways, and that it's hard, I think, maybe to be a female and to be in this and to be like really killing it on this level of, and it's all females out here and everyone's like, what, you know, I don't know, they're like, what's going on out there?
Yeah, like you got the dishwasher chained up somewhere. That guy, right?
I know, poor TJ. We have one male employee and they're like, oh yeah, he's the dishwasher. I'm like, he loves his job. He gets to work with all, I mean, it's a good gig. He's very happy. I don't know. I think, you know, you can't help it. With success, there is bound to be jealousy that comes with it. And I think you can't avoid that. I think it's sad when you see it. I think it shows a lot about characters, of wherever it's coming from. True strong people are going to root you on if they're really, you know, if there's good nature in their heart and we're from this place that we believe in, then we should all be rooting each other on, because it's hard. It's hard to make a living here.
Yeah.
It's hard to survive a winter here.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we're all in this together, and I've continued to believe in my survival has been due to community and been due to my village, and I continue to believe on, and every hard time I've been in, it's been, if I'm not strong enough, I know that I can lean on my village behind me, and I've been really strong in curating that village, and as I continue to let those rings go out, I look at Maine as like my village. And so I'm going to continue to root on everyone here, and if there are people that don't, I just feel like they need to go south.
I think maybe there's a little bit of self-loathing, like someone said to me, well, she had to go somewhere to get fancy. And I was like, I don't think she went that far. She came back, you know, but, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
college out of state. So you have 3 meals left for 2017, and the last one is on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Do you already know what you're making?
No. I mean, I can tell you ingredients because it's that time of year. Beets, yes. Beets will be involved. Root vegetables, scallops for sure.
Yes.
We always have to throw in some caviar. That's our one little main non-thing that we always pull in on New Year's Eve and do something.
Well, caviar, like, doesn't Brown Trading have some? I don't really understand what they're doing. Yeah? Okay. And then you hang it up, and you and Michael maybe go to France for a few weeks. That sounds really, really troubling, and I worry about you.
I was just like, it's taken a lot to get here, Mary. I can tell you some dark down stories.
It's like, you also did tell me that you have you are cooking for a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And my heart warmed when you said you always have a bag of shrimp in there to make him a pad thai.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I know that you have a 15-year-old boy, you are feeding a teenager, and
it's not cheap.
And melding families. And it's not cheap, and he's probably not saying, like, I'd love some scallop crudo tonight. I mean, do you think, like, if you gave Jane the choice, of, you can come to the Lost Kitchen for dinner, or you can go to the Rich Top Diner circa 1988 or so. Like, what would you choose?
Oh, God. He's probably so nice that he'd say, "Oh, Mom, Lost Kitchen, sure."
Okay, okay. And you'd mean it?
I mean, he likes to eat.
Okay, okay. You should. So, does anyone have any questions? I don't know. Anybody out there? Struggle through the snow? You never told me if you got back your grandmother's dishes.
No.
I just feel kind of like I want to go to Belfast.
We can all go right now.
Knock on the door,
Tell the
and
address and
say,
Betty's home.
like, do you really need these dishes?
It's okay. You know what I realized about that? There was a time when I was really kind of like, oh, kind of a jerk. And it's like, okay, we were all in a bad place and we were all behaving badly. But there was something I realized that was really good for me to lose everything, because it made me start from scratch. And it made me not care about anything material. It was just stuff. And even if it had memories, I've rebuilt some of those memories. Even when I go tag sailing and I'm going antiquing and I find that pattern that reminds me of my grandmother, like that brings me joy. And I can start from scratch, because I'll tell you what, it must be pretty sad sitting around that apartment of his and looking around all of my stuff. I mean, it can't be very pleasant. I got to start from scratch, and part of that I was really upset about. Like, really, I've got nothing and I have to start from scratch. That's the most beautiful place to start all over again from. Woohoo! That's what I think.
I like that. I really like that. I think you should be like the inspirational speaker for the people in California who've lost everything. It is, you have to look at it as a fresh start, right?
You know, you look at it that way, it's stuff.
Oh, we got someone.
Hi, Erin. I'm one of the ones who tried to go to your restaurant. I'm not sure I have the stamina to try it. I do have your cookbook, however. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
It's a really good question. I don't know that I have the answer to that. I feel like I'm on a constant path to just kind of stay here, and when I get there, hopefully I'm still right here. I know that it's physically and emotionally demanding, this job, and I don't know how long I can do it. And I keep almost looking at it in a way of fear, like, oh my God, how much longer can I do it? How much longer can my body do this, or my mind, or my emotions? And I don't know the answer to it yet, but I want to keep doing it as long as I'm still loving it. And so hopefully it's a very long time.
Well, I hope it will be too.
Thank you.
I'm just going to tag along to that question, which is, in terms of you writing your cookbook, you seem like a really hands-on person that's in the moment when you're doing things. So what was it like to actually write down the recipes and capture your imagination on paper?
It was more challenging than I think I expected. I think you think like, oh, it's a cookbook, and you just write it down. And when you actually go to do it, the process is so much more different, because I'm such a hands-on person that communicating that is a whole different process. So it was definitely something I learned a lot out of, and I was really fortunate, and I still can't believe that my cookbook is with one of the biggest publishers in the world. And it's like, I look at it like, how did this happen? How did this go from nowhere and get there? And I was really fortunate to be able to have a really strong group of women who really supported me and understood that this was the way that I thought about food, and they helped me communicate that. I learned so much of it, and I feel like, okay, maybe I could do that again with film, but I was really supported with a really wonderful village of women who helped me communicate my voice into these recipes. So.
And you're going to write a memoir now, right?
Yes. It's my current project.
Are you going to work on that this winter? Is that the plan?
Mm-hmm.
Will it have recipes, do you think?
We're still toying with that. We're wondering if they work into it. We don't want it to be too precious in a way, so I'm not sure. There's a chance. It's being discussed.
Do you have a working title?
So thank you for taking the time to come down here. For those who haven't been to your restaurant, you probably won't, because I'm not going to be able to stay awake until 12 to call in. Describe it for us. So through your eyes, and then maybe through guests.
So like an evening at Lost Kitchen. Okay, so the first thing you do when you arrive is you practice
parking lot, which is, this is gonna sound really corny. They're all gonna hate me even more after this. So the first thing you do is you park and you walk across the footbridge, coming across the restaurant, which is over this waterfall. I didn't design this, I actually grew up. It didn't look like this when I was growing up. This building was falling into the ground, so we're just so thrilled that we have came along and rescued this space. When I went to Girl Scouts, people told me, my mother was like, you're not allowed to go over there. It was spray painted, and all of the boys were like over there using it as a bathroom. Now that this place has been redone, it's like, I look at it now and it's like, it's this thriving, beautiful space in the center of our village. So anyway, it's a little different because we have prohibition laws, which you wouldn't believe out there, but we found it out a few weeks before we opened the restaurant. The Liquor Commission was like, oh, you're one of those small little towns that has never taken over prohibition, so you can't serve alcohol. Like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? They said, well, you can sell it, but you can't serve it. It has to be from somewhere separate. And we had an unused space in the basement, and we said, okay, well actually, what if we turn this into a wine cellar? And they can buy it down there and bring it upstairs. And he said, yep, that's fine, as long as it's out of a separate door, you can do that. Okay, I was like, great. So it actually has worked out really nice because it's like a dinner party. It's like you would if you went to your friend's house, you'd show up with a bottle of wine and you'd pour it yourself. And so this is the way we decided we could overturn the law, but we decided not to because I think this way is much more, it's different, and it lets you be casual at the table and enjoy yourself. So my mother runs the wine cellar, which terrified her when I told her. I was like, okay, you need to learn about wine, and she was scared out of her mind. And now she does an amazing job, and she's learned so much. And I've watched my mother blossom as an adult, which has been a really beautiful thing for me to see. It's like she's watched me, I've watched her. And so she runs that. So she's down there, and there's a copy of the menu. And every day I change the menu, and it's 4 courses, and it's all designed on how I want you to feel. Whether it's cold outside, I want you to feel warm, or it's hot outside, I want you to feel cool, and whatever the ingredients are that just make sense for that time of year or that day. And so she'll have the menu, you come in, she helps you pick out and pair wines to go with it for course, and then she'll send you upstairs. You'll have a little egg basket that the shakers made filled with your wine, and you walk up and we welcome you into the dining room, which is always soft lights and lots of flowers. That's the other thing I love to do is arrange big floral arrangements, so lots of flowers and candlelight. The kitchen is open, and it's very small, so the room is probably half the size of this room.
Oh,
Yeah.
I pictured it being.
I know, it's so much larger, it's so much smaller in real life. It feels grand in our imaginations, but we seat about 40 people a night, so we have one long table in the center, which is our communal table, so you'll have a couple of parties scattered there, and then we have little tables around the perimeter. And then the kitchen is open, and we have 4 bar stools, so actually 4 people get to sit up with us while we cook and prepare. There's always edible flowers and lots of vases of all sorts of edible goodies on the counter. And we just start coming out with food, and what I love about this is that you don't have to make a single decision the entire evening you're there, except if you want regular or decaf coffee. And you just sit back and you enjoy your friends and you enjoy your company, and you pour your own wine, and we just keep coming out with food. And sometimes you will have foods that you would never order off a menu because we are creatures of habitat, and you will always order the chicken, or you'll always order something that you're comfortable with. I do it all the time. Every time I go to a restaurant, I go, oh, I like those ingredients, I'll order that. And I rarely will go, oh, I'm freaked out about that, so I'll order it. We don't do that. But there's something about if you go to your friend's house and they serve you a dish, you're going to eat it out of politeness, right? And I feel like that's what happens when you come to the Lost Kitchen, because maybe you've never had oysters, but they're being served to you, and you look at them and they're pristine and they're beautiful and they're cold, and you're like, I'm here, I'm going to do this, I'm feeling this high of the Lost Kitchen, and you tilt it back and you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever had. And that's when you have a really good moment. I mean, the food isn't fancy, it's very simple. I'm not a fancy chef, I'm never going to be the best chef anymore, but I think it's just about simple ingredients. And when you take people in this way where you care for them and you
maybe make them a little uncomfortable, like where am I going? I don't know how to get there, and what are we eating? I don't know what I'm having for dinner, but then you let them know that they're okay. That's like the best dining experience you can have, when you're like uncomfortable and then you realize you're okay.
So is there a moment in the service, like, halfway through maybe the appetizer, where you feel that relaxation go across as people?
Yeah, you can definitely tell when they're popping the second bottle of wine. Always happens, yeah. And it's a 3.5 to 4 hour dinner, which I know sounds long, but you go to your best friend's house. You go to your best friend's house, that all of a sudden you're like, where did 5 or 6 hours go? You know those nights?
Yeah.
That's what happens. Hour and a half? I mean, come on. That's
Is
not that
somebody
time.
gonna build a hotel next door?
Well, we have some Airbnbs and that's thriving right now, so we're trying to figure out ways for our community to sustain a little more, so there are some people who are doing pretty well with us.
There's someone down here.
I'm curious about the sourcing of the foods for your menu. I mean, I'm on my way to the Common Ground Fair and Youth and Strong Agricultural Community, so just curious how much of your menu is sourced by local people? Do you forage or do you procure anything yourself, or how does that happen?
I mean, it's all local except for, I'm not that kind of person who's gonna be like, oh, I don't use lemons or limes. I do use lemons and limes and spices, and I believe in all of those. So all of the fresh ingredients are all local. Some of them so local that I just walk through a path and Village Side Farm is right there, and it's organic and MACA certified, and they grow our chickens and they grow all of our vegetables. But the other thing is that we have a lot of the women who work for us at the restaurant that are servers or work in the kitchen. They're actually also our farmers, because they're my friends and we're in the food community and we're in the same community, and that's how we found each other, was through our love of food and for where we live. And also farming is really hard work and it's hard to make a really good living, so this sort of offsets them, that they can farm and come in at night and make a good wage working at Lost Kitchen, as well as also understanding the produce, because now when they're in the fields, they can look out and they can see what's growing, and they can know, like, oh, well, let's harvest it now at this size, because they can see how I'm using it. They're bringing it into me, I'm cooking it, they're serving it, and now they understand the way that this food has meaning. So that's been a really huge connection for us as far as sourcing, and there's nothing more special than I feel like the pride of working with the people who produce it, and that we're cooking it and we're serving it. So it's a really great joy for us.
It's so strange in a way that you came up with this name. I mean, you're called the Supper Club, the Lost Kitchen, right? And then the restaurant in Belfast, and you did lose that kitchen. And also, it's just a great magical. I mean, doesn't everybody just want to go there, even if you didn't know the food was good? Because it's such a. So how did, back when you named it the Lost Kitchen, was it just a brainstorm?
It was just a brainstorm. I mean, really, it was in my second floor apartment, and it was, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It was this Lost Kitchen, and I would turn the light on at the bottom of my staircase that meant that it was open, and there would be a list of people, and one of my friends would go down and say, what was your name? She'd check you in, and then she's like, everyone's here. I'm like, okay, lock the door. So everyone get locked in, and go upstairs, have a dinner party, and then we'd unlock it, let everyone leave. And so it just started in the Supper Club, and then I got the courage, and people started to be like, oh, maybe this girl could cook. And so I opened my first restaurant, and lost it. And then started cooking out of my Airstream until I could find the next space, which was the current restaurant. And along the way, the funny things I found myself through the whole thing.
Totally. I mean, you could call the memoir The Found Kitchen. I found the kitchen! Anyone else out there? Can see a hand?
I've eaten there once, it was amazing. The clam, you did like a fried clam salad, it's like the fresh green salad with fried clams, like roasted peppers and olives.
Was it like calamari? Or was it, did I do clams? Wow.
I think it was clams, but like, it was amazing. And tuna that night, I think we had harpooned fresh tuna. But I'm just curious, I grew up coming here for like a week every other summer. Now I live here. What percentage of your diners are from away, would you say?
It's a really big mix. I mean, surprised because I do watch Facebook and I see a lot of angry people like, oh, you're weeding out the locals. And I'm like, it's not true. I mean, I can tell you every night that there's someone who either walked across the street, believe it or not. And we have plenty of people who live in that community who are that close, or have come from within a 10-mile radius. And it's funny how the first year we were open, we're local men who lived across the street. And now this year, when someone calls in, like, I'm local. I'm like, where do you live? Like, Kennebunkport. And that's near local. I live in Maine. It's a really big cross section, which I find like healthy and interesting. Like we have like true Mainers, and I love it in that room where you can see like a really fancy Texas woman there having dinner, and you can see like a guy that I went to high school with, and that with his Patriots hat on. Like we're all in the same room, and I love it. Like that there's no pretension there. That it's not a place. I never want it to be that place that feels uncomfortable, or I mean, not everyone's going to be able to get in, but I can't help it unless I want to grow it and ruin it. And this is the business problem that we're at. I'm not sure the answers of that, but it's a pretty good cross section. We've always been really strong-hearted about continuing to support the people who got us there. That we didn't just sail off into the sun saying, hey, thanks for supporting us for the past 7 years. When we saw what happened, we made a conscious effort. Every employee sat down and went through our reservations over the past 5 years and said, we need to get these people in. These are names of people who have been supporting us for years. And we called them and said, I don't know if you know what's going on out here, but you need to get in here quick. You need to make a reservation. And
Really?
Yeah.
So people who you knew had been trying?
Yeah, or we didn't even know that they had been trying, but we knew these were people who had been coming to us for years and years, and then, what are you going to do? Like, all of a sudden, see it?
Right.
I don't think that's a way to run a business, that you have to continue to support the people who have cared for you and got you to that point. I don't know, I think come January 1st this year, I'm going to go, what just happened this year? I'll try and figure it out.
A lot happened this year. I mean, the beauty of a cookbook is that, I can make your parsnip cake for my friend Kate for her birthday.
Gluten-free.
It was einkorn. She can eat einkorn.
I told her all about it.
Thought I'd be a good one to follow this. I'm also from away, and I married a Mainer, best thing I ever did. Moved here, and the first article I read, I'm a publicist in the food and travel hospitality industry, and I read Food and Wine Magazine's story on you, and I'm so moved to cut it out and still have it. And I'm just curious what your favorite press editorial piece has ever been.
I'm so glad I haven't written anything about it. The author of the Food and Wine piece is right behind me.
Do you feel the burning through your head? I'm dying to hear what you're going to say. Oh, God, that's
The very first story?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was Kate Prater. Sure. Yes, it saved it.
I mean,
So besides Food and Wine.
yeah, Kate was huge, and that was, Kate's, what she wrote was really one of the big first pieces that was like, whoa. And all of a sudden, it was almost this scary moment of like, whoa, we're out there. And like out there on a different platform, like not the Bangor Daily News, not, it was like, it was a whole different, it was like, whoa. A couple as of late, I can't say that I have a favorite, but there were a few moments in certain ones that I read and I kind of learned a little bit about myself, even reading about myself. The Downey's one was really challenging for me, but it's one that I go back to frequently because it reminds me of the challenges and how I got here and how low that life was. And it reminds me of my thankfulness to be of where I am right now and how on the high that I'm at. It also reminds me that nothing lasts forever and it's scary, like you can go there real quick. And so I look back on that one. There are also the Boston Globe one, got a good kick out of that one. When my ex-husband called me, he was really pissed off. He was like, you said you were going to kill me. I was like, I didn't say that. That's like, that's something, and I was grating lemon zest with my ponytail into a cake and saying, well, I could just go kill him. I was like, oh, but that would be it. That was cute. But I really, the New York Times one, that piece, I really, there was a moment that took me to realizing that how I viewed my life, which I didn't even realize I did, and I was like, yeah, I do look at my life that way. And how she wrote about at the end how I saw a hawk overhead and I was going to let my chickens out for the day. And I looked up and I was like, oh no, there's a bird of prey out. And then I thought for a second about leaving my chickens. And she was following me around during the story. And she came and she stayed in the Airstream for a couple of days. So she was really hands-on, and I didn't realize that she was writing about every moment of my life for 2 days. And then, down to me like, well, am I gonna let my chickens out of the coop? And then I looked up and I was like, screw it. And I just let the chickens out. I was like, be safe, girls. Have a good day, have fun, be safe. And it was like, she wrote that, and I was like, yeah, that is the way I look at my life. Because otherwise, what am I gonna do? Like, keep those birds inside forever? Or are they gonna go out and they're gonna fly and they're gonna play? And you're always risking death and you're always risking all these things going out there, but go, girl, go out and live your life. I was like, yeah, that is the way I live.
Yeah, that was a great that story.
I needed that moment.
Thank you. On the assumption that we'll be lucky enough to get a reservation, what time of your year would you recommend to request a reservation based on the availability of what's out there for produce, meat, seafood, without being, to prejudice against one season or another?
I hate to pick one because I feel like every season I have the things that I love so much about each one of them. And I was just telling someone recently because they had never been to Lost Kitchen. They just came this past weekend, and it's so wild that we start the dinner in the dark because it's dark at 4:30. And we're having all of these meaty dishes, and everything's a little stark, and the garnishes are quite quiet. But there's something really magical about that room, all candlelit, and we're having these huge, beautiful scallops, and we're feasting on cornmeal cakes, and everything's kind of caramelized and smoky butter, and then I'm like, oh my god, I want a hot dog. No water breaks. But then there's like August, and it's tomatoes, and it's just like the sunlight is perfect, and the windows are open, and the breeze is blowing in, and you can hear the waterfall, and there's like beautiful flower arrangements, and all the edible flowers and nasturtiums, and it's just like, I crave August, and I crave July, and then I look at May, and I'm like, oh my god, it's spring with halibut and spittle-heads, and it's asparagus, and it's rhubarb, and it's like, I can't pick one.
But when you call, I just assumed you called and you said your name and you said please, but you didn't say like July 16th or anything like that, right? You can pick a time.
Well,
to ask for?
the earlier your call is, you can, but by the end of it, I think like 6 days in, we're like, okay, so we have December. That kind of,
Yeah.
Everyone wants July and August. Because I think that's what New Year's. You can't go, that's a hard one to go into.
She's really so embarrassed about that hot dog. Why did I tell you? It's because she's been making, aren't you guys so hungry? We should have had this at 4 o'clock and then all trooped off to a big dinner. Should we have one more question? Molly, what do you think? Or, no? We're done. We're done. We're done. Because we have to do book signing and cookies. So, anyway, thank you so much.